Hi there. So today I'm going to start talking about aspects of resource guarding, and the resource guarding aspect is primarily to do with food. So a lot of the dogs that I have in here, a lot of you guys know that. So I'm going to actually pause a few seconds and wait if see for people to catch up here. So as you can see in my details, in my description, I'm going to talk about resource guarding, the aspect of what dogs are feeling like when they're eating food, and my experiences as well working with my dogs that I get in here from extremely dangerous situations that they are. And I'm going to talk a little bit more frankly about my personal experiences, and I don't usually share those things. I'm a very private person. I'm extremely introverted, to be honest with you. So even doing this is quite a bit of stuff here. But I will start to share my experiences, for example, with Tonka, Walter, 183 pounds, 3 feet 2 inches at the shoulders, dragged a shelter worker from the kennel into his kennel to try to kill her. A whole bunch of things. 3 feet 2 inches at his shoulders. So I'm going to talk about stuff like that, how to deal with a dog like him, who's quite significant, very much dear in my heart. All my dogs always are. When I bring in a dog in here, I always take them in when they have had an extremely dangerous set of circumstances, lifestyle, where they have attacked people, tried to kill other dogs, or have succeeded in killing other dogs. I will take these dogs in, and usually I come off really quite frank and quite opinionated, and and it's because I see things quite efficiently with dogs, as you guys can see if you watch the video that's linked and I put on there of Loki, the Shiba Inu, stress defecation, all this stuff. I was doing that 4 years ago, where I'm actually predicting when Loki will turn his head forward and backwards, and I actually explain why to about 8 people that are watching me. The stuff that I learned is just through a whole bunch of different parts of my life that happened. Growing up, I was doing calculus in grade 5 and stuff like that. Algebra in grade 5, then calculus in grade 7. A whole bunch of stuff. My family's obviously quite high functioning, and I was able to connect with dogs through an ex-girlfriend who had a Great Dane, and I adopted my dear beloved Lincoln, who's obviously passed away. And Lincoln came into my life, and he had significant issues which I had no idea. 154-pound dog. I was really quite thrown off on how to deal with him. One of the things that he had was resource guarding, because I always fed raw. In the beginning, I didn't feed raw, and then I started reading the benefits and the evolutional structure of it all, a whole bunch of things. So I feed about anywhere from 300 to 350, sometimes 400 pounds a month in raw. And that goes to, all the dogs here, because I have 3 Great Danes here, and David is 200 pounds, for example. So he eats about 4 pounds plus a day. So when you start feeding a dog something that they really love, right? Evolutionarily, they love, oh my gosh, it's raw meat. This is exactly what nature, evolution has said, oh, holy cow, this is what I want. It's sustenance, is what keeps me alive. So, of course, the dog is always going to have some structure of like, oh my gosh, right? I just innately want this. It's like, you look at something and go, oh my gosh, it's really quite nice. It's pretty, it's beautiful. It's whatever. I want it, right? Because there's an emotional attachment, because somebody else would look at it. Like they say, one person's treasure, another person's dumpster. So it can come to the point then, well, okay, well, why is the attraction that the dog has for food? So all of them. So with Tonka, Walter, right? So I'm going to call him Tonka when he first came here, so you can understand transitional periods of his interaction with me. And these are very profound interactions, and people who have seen videos where he has tried to attack me, and they have seen where he's actually cornered me, grabbed me, picked me up physically. And like I said, I'm 190 pounds, 5'11". He's actually picked me off the ground and shaken me really, really fucking hard. And it's really quite scary. So a lot of these things have happened, and all these experiences that I've had, from Nero, who was 10 years old, 4 months of age when he came here as a Great Dane as well, who also attacked me. All these situations that I've learned to pay attention to behavior, and also to understand, well, why is one person or one dog doing one thing whereas the other dog is doing the same similar aspect of it. If they're going to guard something, if Tonka is going to guard food, which of course for Tonka was really bad because he was shock collared to not, to get him not to attack over food, because he attacked a child in the face who required plastic surgery. There's a lot of things that Tonka Walter did. A lot of really bad things. He's got 3 kill orders on him. One is active from the state of New York. So what is it that, for example, Tonka, he was eating, if I was to walk into a room and I was renting this old house, so I'm renting this old house, but this other one was this lovely little rancher, and this is my dream home. There's this beautiful rancher with a central fireplace, so it's just absolutely gorgeous. And that's going to happen one day, folks. So what happened is that this room is about 20 feet by 40 feet long. Absolutely gorgeous. Old wood, it's just gorgeous. If you look at my old photos on Instagram, you go, holy cow, right? And so even if I was to put the food on one side and he was eating it, and I would have to quickly walk away, run away, and I would have to hold a shield with me. I would normally grab a step stool that folded up as metal, and I would just carry it because he would attack me, right? And then if I was to get into the room, even to the archway of the room, he would come and go after me. And we have a 183-pound Great Dane that's 3 feet 2 inches. It was over 6 feet 6 inches on his hind legs, standing. When he comes after you, he doesn't have to run that fast. He's right there with you. There's a difference too about predatorial aspects of dogs. So you don't have anybody out there that works with dogs like I do. And I will take them all the time. I'll work with the extremely dangerous dogs to the mild, normal, happy dogs to give people the psychological profile of their dog. I can work at this extreme level because I function quite quickly, and I can take everything that I have learned from these dogs as they have delayered all their behaviors for me to see. So I'm actually comprehending and inputting in massive amounts of information. I'm conflating it, and I'm putting it onto little pieces, and I do that extremely quickly. So what then happens then is I understand templates of emotional behavior. So it's like, okay, just like you go, well, you look at somebody and you look at somebody else and they have kind of like the same look, okay, they're kind of like, right? We start matching because of what our own personal experiences are. So that's what we do when the aspect of thinking, how we structure, right? We pick little things together, put it all together, there's your answer, right? That's why I'm angry, because you did this and this and this, that kind of stuff. So that's the same thing that dogs will do as well when they start pulling references from their cogency, their level of intelligence, their sentient structure of processing what's going on. So now it's going to go into an academic process here of delivery to you guys here. So what ends up happening then is that the dog has circumstantial reference points of memory, just like us. We kind of think of something here, we think of something there, we think of something here, up and down. Well, what? And then we go, oh yeah, that's right. We have nostalgia, we smell something. Oh yeah, that's great. Our olfactory system just goes, we love it. So then what ends up happening is our dog has a centered focus when they're guarding food. Because their only focus is, I just want the food. So they're not pulling from the circumstances, like going, okay, can I trust my human? That's the point. If I don't trust you and you take something that I absolutely love and I only know all about it and my only emotional context is, this is it, this is my food. This is what keeps me alive. I don't know why, but it does. Then we allow the dog start learning how to have reference points outside of it by giving them emotional context, as in giving tolerance and teaching them tolerance. If we teach a dog tolerance, again, that's egocentric behavior. I'm not talking about the simplicity that Dr. Ian Dunbar works down at. These people, I'm talking about true cogency structures in regards to consciousness for how your dog thinks. I would be literally killed many, many times over if I did not know what I was talking about. My applications have happened over 27,000 hours alone with these guys here. Extremely dangerous. If you go and check out that Loki video, again, I'm predicting his behavior before he does it, and I explain why in real time 4 years ago when I was just starting out. You can imagine how quick my cogency structures here, being able to destructure idealectics, everything that's happening very, very quickly, to be able to conflate things, go, okay, my gosh, what's happening with behavior? So why does a dog like Tonka come chasing after me, trying to kill me when I step into the room? And why does a dog like David want to attack other dogs and other humans when they just get near his food or even in the area? It's still resource guarding, right? Resource guarding, food. The psychology is, okay, what would you hear from a traditional academic say? Well, okay, the behavior is because the dog is being territorial. That's total bunk. If we say the dog is being territorial, then we say the dog is two-dimensional. The dog doesn't have cogency. The dog doesn't have the flexibility of the emotions. The dog is not able to pull out from other circumstances of behavior to go, oh my gosh, okay, maybe it's not territory. Maybe it is something that makes me feel scared if you take it from me. If you take my food, maybe I'll feel scared. Something will happen. Is that the loss that's happened to your dog? It's not the fact that you're taking the food in its possession in territory. It's the fact that there's the loss of not being able to understand. Because you know there's been times where you have not fed your dog and your dog just hung out with you and went, okay. And they move around, you're like, oh, right, and you're still working on the computer and like, grumble. Right? So the process is there. Your dog can tolerate not being able to eat. They can, like canines, animals, predators, prey, they can go for days, unfortunately, without food. 7 days, 10 days, right? Sometimes it's quite difficult for them to eat. So then what happens is your dog goes, okay, emotionally, my attachment to the food is very singular, right? That's it. Like a dog like Tonka, who was shock collared till he was drooling and quivering and in total fear to eat food, to get near the bowl, right? So that's his focus. I don't know what to do. I got to grab it before someone hurts me. If I use a shock collar, if I use a prong collar, if I use medication, if I use anything, I'm literally recreating exactly what Tonka and David and Nero and Minky and Loki and every other dog has been put through. I do absolutely nothing different for them. The psychology is, holy shit, you're still the same girlfriend, or boyfriend, right? You're still the same person. I've gone out with 10 of them and they're always the same. You're still the same person that I don't know why. So your dog does not learn the structure, right? Your dog is just focused on one little thing. So you want them to be able to pull out little aspects of experiences of going on and being able to trust you. So the possession happens when your dog is feeling as if, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get it back. And that's when you want to go and say, you know what? You're always going to get it back. You're always going to get the food back. So for me to work with Walter, with Tonka, meant constant times of being in the same room with him and sometimes just tolerating it till he came to me and backing off till he left. And then I would stand back in and he'd come after me again and after me. And I didn't carry anything other than I hid it behind the wall so he knew that I wasn't out there to hurt him. He's going to look at whatever I'm holding in my hand from his own experiences is this guy going to hit me with it? He was beaten so badly between 8 and 9 months of age by one particular owner that he suffered slight brain damage, slight hearing, and vision problems. So that's a significant dog when he's that big. So what ends up happening anyways is that I've got to teach Tonka that I'm here with the food. And despite the fact that, yeah, you're eating it and I've given it to you and all that kind of stuff, I'm still going to respect you. I'm not going to try to take it away from you, which is what has gone through his entire life before. People taking food away, shock collaring, all the hand feeding, all that kind of stuff. I don't hand feed my dogs because I don't need to, because I deal with a physical connection that you get from hand feeding. I do that with a physical touch and affection with them. So that it allows them to understand, here's the food. This is just an incidental. It's not something that I'm using as a resource. Right? A two-dimensional object. I'm not using it as a resource against you. I'm letting you understand, you know what? You get to eat whenever you want. You eat as much as you want in that bowl. If you don't eat it all, then that's fine. And then they understand, okay, the food's always there. Right? That I'm not trying to cause any issues. That I'm not trying to get into their face or take their food away to prove anything like that because they don't know me yet. How can I do something to a dog that has been starved or beaten and all that stuff and go, oh, you know what? Because you're resource guarding, I'm going to try to prove to you that I'm not afraid of you and that we can be friends. But you can't ever force a relationship, can you? You can develop trust, though. And that's what we have to do with our dog. So with Tonka, when he was coming at me, even when I just stepped into the doorway and he's chasing me and I'm holding shield so he doesn't attack me, to David, who just can't have any other dog around him, I teach him that I'm going to be there to protect them. That I'm not there to take their food. Not there at all, that I'm here. And if I do take it, it's not because I'm doing it for a reason other than to clean up the dishes or to just help move the bowl. And I'll always take a risk, which is sometimes extremely dangerous. But I will not make it a point of taking anything away from them. Because if I hold vengeance in my behavior, it carries in my tone, my physicality. Our dogs are nonverbal, right? Nonverbal fluency. Aggregate all the sounds that they make up in a day. It's less than 2 minutes. That's 99.8%, but I always say 98% for people who don't hear that last part. It's 98%. That means your dog is paying attention to everything. Your voice quivers, your sound, everything like that. If you watch all my live videos, there's been some pretty risky situations, and there was situations where David is trying to attack Minky. And I've got to hold him there while he's 200 pounds, 3 feet 2 inches at his shoulders as well. Harlequin as well. And I've got to hold David while he's trying to attack Minky. And I'm just physically letting him feel calm. I'm letting him know that I am protecting him. Just like food. Why would I take his food away? Why would I do something that he has been starving and anticipating for the last 30, 40 minutes, 5 hours, 10 hours? Why would I hold that over my dog and create a psychological process of domination? Alpha. See how Alpha doesn't work anymore? Alpha didn't work with any of these dogs. Alpha, in fact, got some of the trainers bitten in the face. Alpha doesn't work. Alpha causes dogs like this. And what do? I take exactly what these dogs always wanted, is to be loved, right? Okay, but to be respected and to understand that their communication is congruent, right? It's congruent. There's that cogency, that congruency of emotional appreciation is there. You watch the videos of me, of Anthony on TikTok, on my TikTok, you'll see him where he comprehends can of tuna as an objectification of the phrase. Just like you can teach your dog how to sit and go to their bed and fetch the ball, objectification of the phrase. I teach context to the dog so they have a cogency and intelligence. So that's how I can downtrain them to a point where I can be in the same room where Tonka is and not have him where he attacks me. It takes months though, months and months and months. It doesn't take a day, it doesn't take 5 weeks, it takes months and months and months. I've had times where I've held a bowl, a dish after I've eaten, and I've held it to him, and I've held the bowl in front of him as he's licking, and he literally stops licking and bites my hand and fucking shakes the shit out of me. Dish falls everywhere, and I just stand there and I yell at him, and I step back as reasonably dangerously close to him, and I just stay there. And I show him that I'm not out there to take the food, that I'm not out there to hurt him either, that I'm just here, cool. And my heart is just going crazy. But I prove to him that I'm not going to take his food. I'm not going to interfere with something he's been anticipating the whole time, right? So that's what we're doing to our dogs when we start trying to manipulate them with the most basic necessity of life. It contravenes everything, counter-instinctual to what Darwin himself says, right? Darwin says, the predator will survive by fighting to the death over food. The canine species fights to the death over food. So what is the dog going to do? Your dog going to do when they're angry and you give them a treat? They're going to go, oh my gosh, wow, thank you. I'm a predator. Exactly. You'd never give a child having a temper tantrum a new toy. But how do we help them after? We help calm them down. Especially for dogs who have such a narrow emotional envelope, they don't know what the heck is going on. They don't have the experience to learn things outside of it other than what we teach them and show them, right? That's how Emotions are learned. That's how we learn how to self-regulate. Okay, I'm angry. All right, people looked at me when I got angry. We learn to self-regulate. Okay, I'm gonna just go home and yell now. Right? We learn to self-regulate. David is laying on the corner there. David tried to kill Miki today. So these are all situations that have happened, right? And it comes down to the point where if our dog feels safe, then he's okay. Then he comes out. It's like, okay, I trust you. I know you're not going to take the food because I've been waiting all day long to eat it. It's like you making this beautiful meal and someone goes, oh my gosh, I'm not going to feed it to you, right? You're going to be starving. It wasn't that bad. Miki has a tendency to cause issues with David, and I had gone out, and Miki looked visibly shaken when I arrived back. So it doesn't seem other than maybe a puncture wound. David's mouth is so big that he can actually get Miki's 3/4 of his body into his jaws, because Miki is 55 pounds and David is 200 and 3 feet 2 inches at the shoulders. So he's able to fully engulf Miki about 3/4 almost. So, and then it's about integrating them again, right? How do I make them feel safe, right? So that's a different topic. I want to stay on topic as well. So if I make my dogs feel safe when I'm around them when they're eating, then they go, okay, cool, right on, cool. You're not going to take the food from me. And then they start to learn trust, right? Because I'm not doing anything. I'm like, there you go, I'm here. I just stand by them. Sometimes I turn my back to them. Yeah, David was very dangerous. I turn my back to them when I'm eating, when they're eating, right? They're standing here, they're eating, especially the dangerous dogs, right? And I'll stand that way with my back. It's not to ignore them. It literally proves to them while they're eating that I'm protecting them. That's codependency, this egocentrism, right? That's what I talk about in the title. Egocentric. Understanding who you are relational to who you are. It's a level of cogency, that diluted scale of quantification of consciousness. Apparently they feel safe now. Well, hey, if it works this way with them, then they must feel safe from physical affection. Right? If your dog is laying on the bed with you and they're cuddling with you, it means that they feel it, right? They feel safe. They feel loved. When your dog is scared of anything, and we betray that, then your dog is going to go, oh my gosh, I can't trust you anymore. Right? We betray it. So if we start taking the food from our dog while they're eating, we're not doing anything other than just causing this right? It's not appropriate anymore. Alpha does not work. We used to do alpha to our children, right? And we do alpha. We're like 4 generations behind with dogs to the children now. They're finally trying to get children off of medication. They still have dogs profoundly on medication. So they're kind of playing catch up. But look at what's going on with the children now. It's apparently something called love. That's what I'm doing with the dogs. I'm applying this love that they've never had before in the most intense, dangerous situation they've ever been in themselves. Notwithstanding me, but for themselves. For them to be so dangerous where they are willing to attack a human being means that they're that scared. And if I behave back at them and I go, fuck you, and fucking hit them and all this fucking shit and all that, I remind them of exactly what they were experiencing before. The trauma. The memory is not short term, it's abstract and the construct, right? Contextual, pulling things from all over the place. Do you see what I mean by coring down now? Because then the dog starts bringing in all these other points here. I'm trying to tie this all in for you guys in the concept. That's simple to see, but you see the snowflake of that snowball. So now the dog is afraid because we're saying exactly what we have done in our human species. So our dog goes, holy cow, every human being is dangerous. And that's why some dogs have become interdependent to the point where I can only stay with my human being. That's it. And if I go to somebody else, I'll go crazy. Right? The psychology, chihuahuas and all that stuff. These dogs, there's no breed-specific behavior. I can destructure any dog accurately, 100% to the quantifiable sentience. It makes all sense, doesn't it now, right? Why do you keep taking my food away? How can I trust you? And then a dog that has experienced all these dangerous things to them, and all these hits and poundings and kenneling and throwing them into the garage or outdoors and all that stuff, what happens then? Reminds them, memory, right? Abstract memory, contact, brings it all in again. Boom, boom, boom. That's right. Humans. It's the humans. Not just this person now, not 5 people out of 400. It's the humans. That's right. It's the humans that are beating me. And then what does your dog learn? Nothing other than interdependent behavior where they become stuck to you because their self-esteem drops right down to the ground. Low self-esteem, low self-confidence. We know people like that do that and they get angry and they're called bullies. Why is not the emotional scale for a dog to feel loved and being hugged and everything not able to experience more complex emotions? And people go, oh, dogs can't do that. They're dumb, they're stupid, and all that stuff. And I go, wow, look at that. Your dog can experience jealousy though, right? You get another dog in, that's jealousy. Is that not true? That's a complex emotion. Self-esteem, abandonment, insecurity, competition. We could go name a whole bunch more. I'm sure a lot of women could say, I can tell you what jealousy looks like. That's the thing. So what, your dog can experience complex emotions, but they can't self-regulate? They have to be given food to learn what to do? Huh? What? Have we ever seen anybody with an eating disorder? I'm using all these catchphrases and I'm going to start shifting them as I start migrating my followers, you guys, into more complex structures of intelligence. Right? So my brothers have IQs over 160, I'm so pretty close to like 200. So what happens then is your dog just learns that emotional structure, like, oh my fucking God, every human. And that's why when the next human comes in, your dog goes, okay, I'm going to trust you, right? I'm going to trust you. Oh, I love you. Oh my gosh. And then suddenly bites. Why does your dog suddenly bite? Because your behavior started to remind them of everybody else just before it happened. Right? That reflection, that memory, that PTSD. This happens. We're not talking about the simplicity of, oh, your dog is aggressive, your dog is insecure. We're talking about total context of what happens. So our behavior starts happening the same way when we start to feed our dog. And when we get a dangerous dog, I'm for sure scared beyond anything. I get bitten every time. I get bitten constantly, all the time. Fortunately, because my relationship with my dogs and the way I interact with them, I'm very, very fortunate that they don't bite hard enough to lacerate too much. I'm very fortunate with that way. Because I talk to them and I let them know that I'm not going to be quite angry. We have to understand the context of why our dog feels, oh my gosh, you buy my food. Everything that everyone has beaten me and he's, right, we're getting the drama in his, right? Because your dog doesn't know how to proceed with anything else. And all he knows is that you are going to behave similar to every other human being because that's what I'm used to. And if I'm not getting this oppressiveness behind me, the kind of shakiness as they go to feed me now, then maybe they're going to do something else. Maybe they're going to shock collar me and surprise the shit out of me when I'm already scared and ready wanting to do. Right? Again, no dog is going to attack unless they feel scared, unless they feel threatened. And then we bring it down again to the layers of not just threatened, scared. Well, why would they do that? Why would Tonka come at me when I just stepped into the archway of the door 40 feet away? He felt that I was either going to take his food or get shock collared. See, so now we have two ideas why he would have done that. Amongst a plethora of many, many, many ideas. See that for your American, US, and Canadian people. Right, so then what happens? Right? We got two little ideas. We just came up with two ideas. Shock collared, because that's the history, and, child bitten in the face. Oh wait, that's 3 now, right? So then we start getting context. We flesh it out. We build the story. We do accent deconstruction. We start downtraining by understanding what caused the extremity of issue. That extreme issue is always that huge layer, right? Every woman that's gone out with any crazy guy is gonna like, holy blah, right? So that's what happens. We layer it out and we go, oh my gosh, what's happening with our dog? And our dog, as he becomes more and more trusting, right? As Tonka becomes more and more trusting, and I'm closer and closer and closer to him over weeks and months, as the trust builds up. But he has a cogency because he has learned to survive through charisma. There's a reason why he was saved and so many other people continue to save him. He went through 7 different homes in an aggregate of 5 months before he was 19 months of age. This is a significantly dangerous dog, predatorial. His behavior is so charming and charismatic that he's able to survive. No, not like Ted Bundy in that aspect, but a predacious behavior that's constructed from the cogency of his societal influences. In other words, he's learned how to adapt emotionally to charm the right type of people to survive. To survive not being killed, just like David, just like Ninky. There's that charisma, there's that something inside of them, right? And that's that emotion that we are actually seeing. You pick out your dog out of 500 different photos because there's an emotional attachment. You are immediately in love with a dog you've never met before. And when you meet your dog, you're like, oh my gosh, I love you, I want to protect you, and I'm going to do everything for you. For a dog like Tonka, wow, oh my God, I love you. And then the minute he feels threatened, too much, anything forcing him, time in his face, trying to prove something, he's going to think, oh my gosh. And what do we do as humans? Brute force. That's how we correct dogs, right? Brute force. We kill them, right? A dangerous dog, we don't stand back here. We make up behavioral euthanasia. We make up that phrase, behavioral euthanasia, right? Euthanasia is a human definition. I looked it up before. Behavioral is behavior for what your dog has innately been evolutionarily structured for, to be a predator. That's what the academics forget, is the dog is actually the predator. So if there's behavior that's negative, it means because the socialization on our human side is responsible, not our dog. That means the dogs are allowing us to create an adaptation for them because we are forcing them into our homes. So we sure as heck are obligated to create an emotional, healthy codependency with them instead of trying to create an oppressive aspect of alpha, or of possession, or of bridging and catch up and saying, I don't know what's going on. What we need to do is just be there and show our dog they can trust us. There are times, and Tonka, when he met me in the hotel in Seattle with his handler, who's an ex-Army vet and ex-NYPD officer, very sharp person. He had tried attacking a German Shepherd that was at the lobby in the hotel. And he's a very significant dog, and so being able to teach him to trust me to protect him. There have been times where a dog's off leash and people are like, oh, my dog's friendly, and I'm like, you have no idea, right? And I'm not even joking. I'm like, you have no idea. Like, I don't say that to them. I'm just like, please leash your dog up, I'm being serious. And they like blah blah blah. And there are times though where then the dog comes exuberant or whatever, and Tonka will be at the end behind me, at the end of a 6-foot lead, or at the end of the retractable, standing as far back as he lets me protect him. Your dog comes to you to feel protection. Anybody that tells you, any trainer, any behaviorist, anybody that tells you to push away an angry dog, a dangerous dog, your dog that's about to be aggressive, etc., anyone that says that to you should not be working with dogs ever, until they come to terms with the fact that your dog looks up to you every single day. You feed them, you cuddle them, you take them to the vet, you walk them, you control their entire life. You control everything about them besides the love that you give them, but you control everything. The Stockholm Syndrome, you control everything. That one time when they see a dog dangerous in their mind, to them that dog is dangerous, doesn't matter. And they come back and they start barking and that up, and they come, and you'll see your dog coming back and forth because they're asking you to help. They're not coming over to create territorial aspects or relational or spatial relationships, nothing. Your dog is asking you for help. That's why they come back to you, and you're so fucking stupid if you're not paying attention to the fact that they're scared. Because you've done everything for them their entire life. And that one moment when they see that dangerous dog, you went, fuck you, right? That's literally what it is. That's you literally phoning up your friend, your wife, your husband, and saying, I need help, honey. And they go, your own fault. Your dog becomes extremely dependent on you. Healthy codependency, that emotion that we have. I talked about interdependency, where the dog can no longer be with anybody else. We have modular interdependency, where the dog becomes adaptive to other people. And then we have ladder modular interdependency, where the dog only becomes happy with certain people and starts escalating until they get to the point of the one person that will feed in exactly into the neuroticisms. All these behaviors happen because the dog needs to feel protected. The codependency. So you talk about alpha and all that stuff, you're talking about a rather infantile approach to things. You're talking about behaviorism and quadrants and Dr. B.F. Skinner. Then you're talking about miscomprehension of behavior because it hasn't succeeded since Pavlov in 1897. All my videos prove exactly what I'm saying, that I'm pretty accurate. I'm doing predictive behavior of David turning his foot, moving his foot, all these behaviors. As I'm walking at night, all those things, I'm predicting behavior before it happens because I recognize the emotional templates, the emotive templates, the way how you're going to react to something, right? How many times have you went and said, oh, I'm going to bring a surprise to my girlfriend, right? And you're like, I like that. And you're like, I can't wait to see her face because you know what she's going to look like. You always love that beautiful look in her face. And she goes, right? You have that emotional template in your head already of how your girlfriend's going to behave when she sees these incredible flowers, right? That's where your dog is coming from. See, the structure is really quite similar. It's endothermic biology, the behavior. And biology, as I talk about there in my theory, or audacious theorem of consciousness, is that construct leading into, obviously, learning. Because you have to learn. Biology has to learn, right? Biology cannot just go, then the biology would be bland. It'd be two-dimensional. So biology has to be able to take what it has learned and adapt to it, right? So what I say in my audacious theorem, not theory, but theorem, is that biology has the ability to compartmentalize, to put into something the answer between yes and no. The false positive. How does a cell split? One by one by one by one. It adds up, right? It's like the snowflake and all that stuff. Same with the compartmentalization of learning, consciousness, right? That fractional aspect of the answer of a decision saying, I should have went left, I should have went right. I'm going to be blatant, obtuse here. Should go left, should go right. I'm going to go this way, right? That's that false positive answer that we came up with. And what happens? We compartmentalize it into our psychology. Just like biology does it on that really, really tiny little level through evolution, through the gazillion layers, gossamer thin layers. Builds it up. Learns the experiences, right? That structure, just like the theory of consciousness, like that evolutional structure of psychology. We have to look at the scale of where our own consciousness was in developmental, evolutional stages during the milestones, you know? The religious era, I'm not going to add a name to it, you know, the dark ages, the cave dwellings. What was our structure of consciousness at that time? When we look at that scale, we quantify it and we put that into academic perspective, then we go, oh my gosh, if we have this, dogs must be able to do that too. All other biological endothermic life must be able to do that as well. Because the mapping structure of the brain, if we look at all these endothermic lives, all the warm bloods, right? Warm blood dust, right? All the other species. If we look at that, we have similar mapping brain structures, right? The neurology is somewhat similar for core behaviors, memory, aggression, etc. That means that structure, the abstract for consciousness, is going to exist around that format through the contexts of the biological compartmentalization of everything that we have learned. Boom, 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 we build up a memory. That's why I say the dog is core like that. They have to pull away from memories that they haven't had before or learn from things they've never experienced before by us letting them feel safe. So I'm trying to let you understand that for dogs, if you just let them be and give them time and not feel so instantaneous, I need to have conformity and performance. And you go, okay, I'm just going to let them exist as they are, and I'm going to slowly, over the weeks and months, get friendlier and closer to them so that they don't attack me. You have to take your time to build up the trust. If you push trust, you violate it all, right? If someone says they're going to change and they don't change, just like the human being that your dog is expecting to behave the same way every time, which is not to change, no changes. But when you behave not the way that your dog expects you to, because they've been beaten and all that other stuff, then they go, holy cow, you have changed. And then it is obligated on our end to be consistent like a mother. Every single time we must be vigilant, because again, you got to remember nonverbal fluency. Your dog has been communicating to you the whole time, whether or not they're rescued, whether or not whatever. They can show you when they're like, you know, you better stay away from me because every other human has hurt me, blah, 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 right? We've got to pay attention to these things now. We've got to slow down. Everybody who talks to me is like, oh my gosh, he talks so much, so fast and all that stuff. Absolutely true, because I have so much to say when I'm talking about their dogs. When it comes to the dogs themselves, I'm extremely efficient with my words. If you watch my lives, I'm always doing the commentary and using the commentary in a different tone of voice, a different context, a different rhythm structure, intonation structure, all on purpose to take that out of my dog's cogency structure for where they understand. And I'm doing it even now, as you tell here, so that they don't hear what I'm talking about, so that it doesn't influence or bleed out their context of my regular voice when I'm talking to people like this. Then that way they don't listen. It gets them off the hook so that the dogs are able to maintain a core context of listening for their name, for keywords like SLOW, DOW, and WALK, STOP, all these words, because I'll use them in my regular language. I won't use the high-pitched voices. I won't do that right now. I won't use the high-pitched voices because it's disingenuous. Play, prey, and predator drive gets elicited. All these kinds of things. We have to look at the psychology of what's going on with the dog and the structure. Why does a dog become very dangerous when you get near their food? If we know why they became that way, how, then we understand. Now we know the problem is less difficult because we have the cause. Instead of going, well, we'll just give them more, give them dog more food, give the dog this, well, we'll hold the food back, we're going to hand feed the dog. All these very silly things that have no application to, well, why is he even upset? Why is he so dangerous? Right? I always say upset, angry, right? Because then I put humanize it, right? Anthropomorphize it, right? Anthropomorphize it, humanize it. Okay, that's what I use with these words instead of getting too technical. So what do we do? All right. So I want to just finish off because I don't want to get too far into this. There's a point why I brought this up was yesterday. I was feeding everybody, and I feed raw and everything. So what I'll have here is Minky will be down here. I'm just changing this. I'm pushing the words out on purpose, and I'm changing tone again. So I'll have Minky out here, and then I'll have one of the Danes here, William or David, and Lincoln and all that stuff. And Minky's very skittish, as you can see in the videos about him, extremely skittish. So what happens is, if I'm here, and I've got William here, and I've got David over here, and they're eating, and again, David and Minky, right? So we still have that dynamic, especially around food. It's escalated, but again, we do that supervision. So they're down here, and Minky's here. As long as I'm in the room, in this area, he will continue to eat, because I make him feel safe. When I step out of it, he immediately walks away. If I step back into it, it takes more coaxing to get him back into the area, and he'll start to eat after a few more minutes. He's upset, he's anxious, he's afraid. Issues obviously with David, but just in general, he's not used to being around other dogs, free range, eating food, raw meat. So he goes, okay, my gosh, I don't know what to do. In the beginning, when I would stand by him, he'd turn around and bite me. Watch the videos that I've had before. He'd freaking attack me. He'd have me backed up. It's a trust issue. My dog doesn't trust me. Any dog doesn't trust you. And they can tell. People call me egotistical and all this kind of stuff. I just don't have time for low comprehension people. Because I'm dealing with real life issues. It's how am I going to help this dog not be killed? Right? So that's the key point. All this other extraneous, all this little childhood Crayola chatter, it doesn't even mean anything. Sometimes it just makes me laugh, and I like egging them on. But it gets back to the point of where's the children? How did your dog feel safe? How does Minky feel safe? Because I'm here. Because I've proven to him that all those times where he's tried to bite me and has bitten me and blah, 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 that I'm still here. And I'm giving him predictive behavior of a changed human being. And if I'm changing, right, I'm showing him that I'm changed from every other human being. Because if you get bitten by a dog, especially a dog like Minky, very fast, very quick, and very hard, painful bites, you will be very scared and nervous the next time and the next time and the next time, because he'll bite you again and again, always in the same area. So you're like, oh my gosh, you're going to open up the same wound again. So instead of me going, oh my gosh, you'll see in the videos like on TikTok where I keep my hand there. I'll keep my arm there and people go, oh my gosh, look, he doesn't even bite you. I'm like, he used to bite me all the freaking time. And then he learns that I'm not going to hurt him. That's why I can be around him when he's eating food now. About 4 or 5 months ago, I was just barely getting close to him when he was eating a raw beef bowl. And the other dogs going by, and David and him having much more animosity back then. Much more animosity. And when you see a Great Dane grab a Jindo, who's 55 pounds, and literally have 3/4 of his body in his mouth, you know that's a big dog. These are extremely difficult circumstances sometimes. But it always comes down to a safety issue, right? It is always how your dog feels safe. That's how I can have them all together, because they know they feel safe. I haven't had to beat them, I haven't had to kick them unless they're having a vicious fight. And that has happened, obviously, not at all. So in the beginning, yes, all these little things, because I'm making sure that they're getting supervised, and when something bad does happen and I interrupt them, I just go, okay, that's fine. And I give them a little bit of rah, 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 right? I bark at them a little bit myself, like, rah, 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 you know, I say words and this, and I try not to swear, right? Because they hear it all the time. So that's why I try not to swear when I'm working them with them, especially, not when I'm on live here. And then they learned that, oh my gosh, we had an incredibly tense environment here where we fought each other. What do we do now? That's the question. It's going to happen. Your dogs are going to look at you like, if you have a multi-dog thing, a family or whatever, right? What's going to happen now? Same with food. What's going to happen now? They fight over a bone. What's going to happen now? My human has separated us. What's going to happen now? Are we going to get yelled at? Are we in trouble? And if we cause that violence to happen in our tone, just like with children, if we cause that violence to happen, then our dog becomes afraid, and they become more evident of being more resourceful by guarding, because they go realize, okay, holy cow, if I cause a little bit of an issue, then my human will intervene and one of us will get in trouble. That means I get to keep the bone still, right? Things like that can happen in the context of how your dog is thinking. It's not just blank and easy and two-dimensional. So we gotta kind of destructure all things. Anyways, so getting back to Minky, sorry. Minky, so he won't eat if I leave the area. So the only way that I can leave the area when I'm putting the dishes, the bowls out to everyone else or picking up stuff like that, is I will say his name. And all that work that I do, that I tell all my clients about using the dog's name, your dog's name in a regular context, right? Regular context. Then I say his name and he can hear it as I'm walking away. And I say it and I say it and I say it to remind him. And I watch him to see when he starts to become stiff and nervous or starts to leave the room. And when he does that, I say it, right? I help him self-regulate. I guide him through emotionally by calmly guiding him through his anxiety if I need to escape from these two dogs and one of them tried to kill me and still does. So then I talk him through. Then he hears it, the other dogs hear it as well. Oh my gosh, Okay, Dad's watching Minky, but he's also watching us because he's saying Minky's name. No different than children, right? No different than our family when we grew up. Same thing. Something's happening amongst, right? All the kids, I grew up in a family of 8. So something's happening. Just one person's name had to be called. And we were like, holy crap, Mom called our name or your name. We would be like, ha, making fun. But be like, making fun. But we were scared too. We were afraid of getting in trouble. So the same thing that happens here with the dogs. So this is the structure of consciousness that happens far beyond anything that you ever read from Temple Grandin, any of the other people. Like honestly, I've read their stuff. It's really like children's stuff. It's like crayon writing. And it's what's causing the bastardization of academia and the comprehension of what's happening with dogs. The behavior is trust. So how can I get close to a dog and progress him so fast without treats or medication, without being killed? Literally without being killed. Because I'm teaching them that they can trust humans again. And I teach it them by my example, and then I force the other. See how I talk differently? And I teach them by showing them other examples when they meet human beings as well. Because they look up to me, right? Like I said, your angry dog going back and forth, they come back to you. It's not to be anything other than to go, oh my gosh, you protected me. You see that with David, about to attack Miki, all the live videos, I'm walking, it's so simple. And all these, Dr. Rebecca Ledge, all these people know about my work. It's that, don't get the truth out because I'm doing this for free. You watch my videos, you'll learn, right? Oh, it makes sense, doesn't it, right? And you're getting a guy who's got an IQ in the 200, almost the 200 range. So it's all getting pretty structured. And it's not only that, it's been proven. And I can prove it anytime. You can bring any dog to me. That's my open challenge to anybody. You don't believe me, bring a dog to me. And I'll give you one of the dogs that I work with. And we sign a liability waiver. That's it. You do what I do. You can use your treats and medication. You can do whatever you like. Just give me a leash and a collar, and I'll work that dog and stabilize their behavior. Because I'm addressing the psychology. I'm not addressing hunger. I'm not addressing, oh, I need to be dominated and oppressed by an alpha aspect of application of behavior. Oh, wait a minute. I'm teaching that dog that is so afraid, right? Why does the dog attack? Because they're trying to defend themselves, because they're afraid, which that means then if your dog comes to you, they're not asking you to join in the fight, they're asking you to protect them. That's why they come to you, because otherwise they would just keep lunging at the other dog constantly. And if that dog does turn out to be, your dog is always lunging all the time, it means that he used to ask you for help and you didn't respond and he gave up. So he said, screw it, I'm just going to attack. All this works. I'm walking with 2 dogs, Great Dane, 105 pounds, William, and David, 200 pounds, on retractables with the same hand. You can use a retractable if you practice all these things. Don't listen to the people who tell you, like the professionals, oh, don't use, because they don't know how to use it. Ask them to work with a dog without treats or medication. Ask them to say, well, why is my dog resource guarding food? And they come to you with, the canines fight over food. And you're like, okay, then why would you give treats to my canine when they're angry? How does that help? The other part is, okay, well then, all right, so yeah, your dog is just resource guarding and, he's afraid and okay, well then explain why. We already have the point of Tonka shock collared by one human. Second one is attacking a child in the face that needed plastic surgery. Starvation, all these other parts that could have happened to him. Hand feeding, he was hand fed as well. So now we go, oh, we have more context of why he is resource guarding. So it's not just the one little thing why he's territorial and he's keeping his food. It's shock collar. It's a child getting near his food, thinking he's going to get in trouble or a competition, starvation, right? All these kinds of things. Then we go, now we have context why this dog is extremely dangerous. If you know why your best friend who's an asshole is your best friend, it's because you know the reason why they hurt. And that's why you stay best friends with them, because you hope one day that you'll be able to help them. That's the same thing that we do with dogs. That's what I do with dogs. I change the tone on purpose, but I still keep it bland on purpose. So that's what we do with our dogs. We've got to protect them. They have to feel that they're protected. And it's a really, really hard thing. And everyone goes, oh, you know what, this is probably not that much of a problem for you because, you know, I'm like, if you come to me, it doesn't matter what kind of issue your dog has, even OCD, taking socks and all that stuff, that codependent, low self-esteem issue, right? Taking socks, codependency, low self-esteem. How many people do we know? We go out with somebody, I'll get back on tangent and get off tangent, right? You know somebody, start going out with them, we're like, oh, I love the way her shirt smells, right? Do you see that codependency, self-esteem issues? Doesn't it make sense now? The simplicity of it all. That behavior happens with all the dogs. Right? So when we have situations where the dog is feeling that we're not there to protect them, that we're trying to push them away, they're going to literally go, I can't trust you again. One of the things I say to people, to my clients is, say you go and lend your friend $20, right? You've all heard this story. You lend them $20 and your friend doesn't pay you back after a week. Then 2 weeks, 3 weeks go by. You know, they've got their pay period, they're working and all that stuff. A month, 2 months go by and you see them up on Facebook and they're skiing, right? They're skiing. You're like, dude owes me $20. And you text him, hey man, how's it going? And he's like, oh, hey, pretty good. How's it going with you? And you know he's been busted. And then he pays you back the $20, right? All that. When is that trust is gone, right? For $20, all your trust is gone forever, right? Because how long is that trust going to take for you to rebuild with that person? It's not up to you anymore. It's up to them. It's up to the human species, right? Do we see what that context is? We literally have that aspect where we are protecting our dog in a highly emotionally isomorphic relationship, right? Isomorphism, right? Biological similarities of structures, two different biological structures sharing similarities. So I call it emotional isomorphism in regards to isomorphism, right? Blah, blah, blah. But to emotional aspects of having similarities of emotional cogency or the ability to carry the emotions, to have the emotions available. So that's what happens then. So they learn that. Sorry, I was just reading what it is. Sorry. I can't really read these things though. Sorry. Okay. Anyways, I can't read that anyhow because it's distracting. I got thrown off here. We want the cogency for the dogs to understand emotions. I'm going to try to find myself back because I went off on that tangent as well, unfortunately. I'm trying to keep structured here as well. So we're talking about the food. We're talking about, let me see. So I'll just go back onto the part of, with Tonka, is letting him understand that he was safe. And the most important part about letting him know he was safe with food was just to be there with him. Right? Just to stand there with him and not to leave him alone. So that way when it came to the point, he was used to where I am, he was used to that. I was forward facing, so he knew I was protecting him. Right, all those things I talked about earlier, and that translated into the point when a dog was coming at us about to attack or to be super friendly, and he was afraid of the dogs, he'd go back to the end of the leash, either end of the 6 foot, or else he'd go to the end, which is 26 feet of the retractable, and stand there. And he wouldn't bark. He wouldn't do anything. He would just wait and watch. And I'd tell the people to please, could you leash your dog up, please, etc. Listen to them yell or swear or whatever, and just continue going onward. Then it allowed Tonka to know that I had control of the situation. They could bark, right? Because you've seen your dogs, they're like standing there and another dog like barking in their ear, and then your dog's like, all right, that's the same thing. So then while I'm talking calmly in the same tone that they're used to, their dog is the person, bark. So I'm just saying basically to my dog is like, okay, no big deal. It's all cool. There's nothing to worry about. We're just walking through. So that's that part. Yeah, I can't remember what I was saying because of I can't read these messages when it happens. Okay, I gotta go. Anyhow, hopefully I'll be able to give you guys some news. I'm gonna have some updates as well. The last couple of next couple of weeks. Hopefully this week I'm gonna get some news on something, and then when I am able to, for those of you following, and I've always said that this is where it starts, and then hopefully I'll have some news to be able to say stuff. All right. Okay. I gotta go, and I will talk to you all later. Okay. Bye bye.